Hello and welcome to Talking Bottom. I'm Ange Pearson.
I'm Paul Tanter.
I'm Matt Brooks.
And this week we are talking about Drop Dead Fred, Rik's iconic film character. He was an imaginary friend of a young Elizabeth. It's a black comedy featuring, we meet Elizabeth at the age of 27. On the day we meet her, it's the worst day of her life. She has had her husband cheat on her. Her money is cut off from her by her husband. Her car is stolen and she's fired from her job as a court reporter, all in the same day. When her overbearing mother, Polly, comes to take her to her childhood home, she is clearly unhappy to be with her mother, but back in her childhood bed. And overnight, if you've seen the film, I don't want to spoil any of the fun, but Drop Dead Fred returns. He was her imaginary friend as a child. And Lizzie, or Snot-face, we soon realise, used Fred as an outlet in her suffocating childhood, living in a house full of rules and very little affection. And Fred was her way of rebelling and finding her own voice. And in her mental breakdown, as we meet her in her late 20s, we witness Lizzie figure out all of the things that she'd repressed in her past. Fred absolutely joyfully brings to life lots of anarchy, lots of ways in which that she can you think that he's just getting her into trouble all the time, but actually I mean, we'll talk about this now as we go through the character that is the wonderful Drop Dead Fred. I think it is definitely that he is imaginary and doesn't exist. It's all Lizzie. When you on the rewatch, when I was younger, obviously you buy into the fact that Fred completely exists. But it depends whether you think about the magic and the fantasy is true. But I think
disagree.
I do think it's that she's had a mental breakdown though. But go on, you strongly disagree, Matt?
Well, for me, the reason he exists, first of all, there's other imaginary friends and the kids who they belong to can't see each other. That's the first clue to me that the imaginary friend is like a mythological creature that's like an entity that's sent to children that need it. They're kind of like a guardian angel type.
Yeah, it's a lovely idea. I mean, the fantasy world that is that imaginary friends exist is what is in the universe, isn't it? But I think if you're standing back and saying, well, what's actually happening, it is that Lizzie's had a mental breakdown.
That's what it's framed as. But I think the letter that's sent, she thinks it from.
Well, let's talk about. Should we talk about Rik and the character a little bit, because that's what we're focusing on in our Rik special series.
Let me just give my top 2 pence worth there, which is it doesn't matter. So there are, as you said, Ange, there are overriding themes of a woman who's been repressed as a child and is sort of working through those issues and has this kind of alter ego who she kind of uses to act out the things she wants to do, and is the kind of side of things that she wants to do. And there is a hint of it could be the things that we see happen that Fred does. There's a hint that it could be her, but I would say visually, in terms of what we see on screen, things like when the guy is like handing out drinks at the art gallery and Fred pulls the thing off his toga,
then she's got it in her hand.
That would have had to have been her. So in those instances, but that's not to say when we're seeing Lizzie as a young child or something, it could be her who went outside and got the mud. But you know what? I don't think it matters. I don't think we need to read too much into that.
No, the magic of it is absolutely that Fred exists and he's there and we're all seeing him, but there are moments where you don't see him, and apparently that was Phoebe Cates' idea, that there were moments where you don't see Fred on screen and you see what everyone else is seeing. Like, obviously, I presume it's when she's like battering the violinist in those sort of moments. But I just want to put out there, having watched, obviously when I was a kid, I just absolutely loved Rik as Fred and all the joyfulness of that. I think I got the sadness that Lizzie was going through in a divorce and all that, but when you're a kid, you're just loving Fred, right? But on the rewatch, I was like, oh wow, like it's her dad that's left.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Around the same age. Like he left not long after, I think, is the inference. And he never said goodbye and he never came back. So there's a real, I mean, a lot of people, this film wasn't that well received at the time.
Yeah.
And I do think, yes, it maybe tonally didn't necessarily hit all the right, I don't know, because I love Rik in it so much. It's my favourite film. But there are reasons why critics obviously didn't like it at the time. But it's actually, on the rewatch, I think it's great, like kind of feminist film. There's loads of wonderful like messaging in there. And it is essentially about joy and saying goodbye to your past and making peace with it.
So obviously, being a man, I don't look at it primarily from the view of as a feminist film, that kind of thing. I'm very aware of those themes in it. But what I did become aware of it watching it again recently, And like yourself, I watched it as a kid and loved it for the anarchy and the
Mm.
Rickness. And there are occasionally bits where you see, oh, that line, that's a bit like the way Richie would have done it. I hate you. I hope you die.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it's sheer Rick.
that's very Richie.
Sheer Rick, isn't it, in moments? Like, obviously it's Rick, it's him doing it, but
And as a kid, I didn't really appreciate the whole, oh, there's the angst in the childhood and the parents are broken up. Now, as an adult and a parent, I watch it going, I can kind of empathize with the parents more going through it as well. Obviously, you empathize with Phoebe Cates, the shit she's been through, the stuff she's processing. But I watch it going, oh man, now the mum had to raise her as a single mum after the dad left. Feel sorry for her. The dad and the mum clearly had issues. Feel sorry for him. If he went and he left the kid, you don't do that unless there's a massive thing happening.
I mean, I've obviously watched it a lot, but like she is an awful woman, isn't she, Lizzie's mum? Like she, as you say, you do have some sort of empathy, but not really, because she's so horrible right to the end. She's sort of like, he left because of you. She's
She
always
blames-
blamed Lizzie. She's blamed everybody else. And when you see the snippets of their relationship where they're clearly not happy, and she, the awful moment where she tapes up Fred in the Jack in the Box at the end, and he's saying this is not right. And she's like, what do you know about raising a child? And he storms out saying apparently nothing. And you do think, God, that was probably a schism in their marriage that stayed with Lizzie. And when Fred abandoned her, I think it's that her dad abandoned her. But it is a comedy, so we shouldn't go too much into all the heavy stuff, but we should talk about Rick. But
On the subject of Fred being imaginary and not real, I find it interesting that he's English and they're in America. The dad's English. So you think maybe there's some sort of thought.
Absolutely.
that.
I've always thought that that's part of it. Like the dad has a very English accent. Rick has an English accent. Obviously, the dad's much more sort of like posh.
It's
an
RP,
English
isn't he?
accent.
And
And interestingly enough, though, apparently there was feedback from the producers when they'd filmed Drop Dead Fred that they wanted Rick to have more of a transatlantic accent. They wanted to dub Rick's part.
Oh,
Right,
really?
I'm going to get up the quote that came back from Rick when the producers gave him this feedback. Hold on, bear with me.
Now, while you look that up, I've got to say that when someone says transatlantic accent, I think of two people that always use as an example of transatlantic accent. One is Lloyd Grossman, and the other is Crichton from Red Dwarf. They are always described as transatlantic.
I see.
But I'm never entirely sure what that specifically is supposed to mean, because what is it? It means halfway between England and America. So someone who
So in
lives
the
in the
water.
sea. Yeah.
It means that you can't quite place it, isn't it? I think, Crichton in Red Dwarf is sort of meant to be semi-Canadian.
Right.
It's like an affected accent that, has a kind of poshness to it, but it's sort of pseudo-American. It's got that kind of, it's not as jarring as a real British accent to the American ear, I guess.
And I think I've heard John Lithgow described as transatlantic before, and he's someone who sort of, he sometimes he sounds a bit British when he's not playing British even. Have you found the thing you're looking for?
I know I put it somewhere special in my notes, right? Cut all this bit, cut this. I know I put it somewhere like at the top of it.
What
Have you guys watched
here
the
it is.
Blu-ray?
Sorry. I'll just say this bit and then.
Okay.
Okay, so after viewing a rough cut of the film, one New Line executive asked if Rik Mayall's character could be redubbed so as to speak with less of a strong English accent and more of a transatlantic one, so US audiences wouldn't find it so jarring. When one of the working title producers rang Mayall to pass on the suggestion, Rick replied, "You must be joking. I'm Rick, 12 inches of throbbing manhood male, and I'm English. If he wants a transatlantic voice, then give him a shovel and tell him to dig up Carrie Bloody Grant." Needless to say, that idea was dropped
And it
and
fell
Rick
through,
was
yeah.
not dubbed. Can you imagine if they dubbed Rick?
Would that be Rick doing a transatlantic accent
I mean,
or someone else?
You'd like to think they would have at least given him the chance to redub his lines. But fair play to Rick, obviously, to tell them where to stick it. Because, I think, obviously, I grew up watching Drop Dead Fred. I cannot imagine anybody else in that role. They did consider other people for the role. Rick was not the first choice. I think John Cleese was who they thought of when they were first writing it, apparently.
I've heard that the film was originally offered to Tim Burton to direct and
right.
Robin Williams to play
Yes,
Fred.
Robin Williams turned it down and did Hook instead.
You can definitely see, there are Tim Burton there are Tim Burton themes in certain points. A couple of reviewers at the time referenced the film or the character as a bit of a sort of subpar Beetlejuice knockoff. But I've always thought of Tim Burton when they go into the dream world, that the design there looks quite sort of Beetlejuice-esque.
Very, very
Have
Tim
you
Burton.
guys seen the Blu-ray? special edition. There's a bunch of deleted scenes, and there is a whole sequence with
There's
Drop Dead Fred World, kind of.
Yes, Drop Dead Fred Land.
Yeah.
I think they referred to it as in like production notes, and there's loads of there's an alternative opening and an alternative ending, and loads of deleted scenes. I have to say the deleted scenes, some of them really make sense, and a couple of them. I'm so glad they changed the opener and the ending. Apparently, it didn't play well to audiences when it first went out.
So obviously we've done a bit of research before this podcast, and as part of that, we watched those deleted scenes because they're, even if you haven't got the Blu-ray, they're available on YouTube. Matt, you very kindly sent them over, and I've got to say I agree. I can see why they cut a lot of those deleted scenes because some of them were really slow, that they really dragged the pace down. And cutting them out and leaving the bits in they left in, you still got the story elements that you needed.
Yeah, they didn't have any subtext between Mickey and Lizzie when they have that meet cute of her being knocked over in the bank by the door, and then she falls into his arms in this ludicrously over-the-top way. I mean, it is a little bit creepy that he puts his suitcase down in the one that stays in the when he meets her at court, and it looks like he's deliberately tripped her up when you rewatch it. And
Did you
she
recognise
falls
someone that you knew when you were 4 or 5 years old?
It's so creepy. Straight away, he's like, Lizzie, or Betsy, he calls her Betsy, doesn't he? And it's like, is he stalking her? But no, Mickey Bunce. I mean,
I like the character, but I hate his earring. It's got
so
like very 90s, I suppose.
Late 80s, early 90s stuff, isn't it? But I always what I loved as a kid was Rick just being like, oh God, stuck in a truck with but 2 girls, all that. But Mickey is definitely more the sort of right person for Lizzie, and we obviously see that as the film goes on. But in that alternative opening, he literally says, I was in love with you when we were 5,
Yeah.
And it's all like there's no subtext, it's all rammed down your throat. You see the kid straight away, which kind of takes away from when you then see Lizzie as a kid. The tree that he's built is like a nice sort of early kind of what's it called, pre-shadowing or foreshadowing of the tree in Lizzie's garden.
As her. I know they're going to be similar ages, but I'm hoping they are the same age, because if he was like 5 years older.
No, he was 5.
It's even worse.
Yeah, that's why she's like, you were in love with me when you were 5, and he's like, what's wrong with being in love when you're 5? And he's a caricature of a 2-dimensional man, isn't he? But he's sweet, but it's so much better the way it actually, and the ending. Anyone who hasn't watched these, do go on YouTube and watch or buy the Blu-ray. Yeah. That came out for the 25th anniversary edition in 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. So most people will have seen the film. Fred and Lizzie takes the pills that she's trying to take to get rid of Fred, and she falls unconscious. And in the film, we go to their sort of Fred's dream world type thing, and they're straight into, I think there's the car, and they have to take.
Yeah, it's sort of Lizzie's mind, isn't it? Yeah,
But in the deleted scenes, there's this whole sequence before then, which for a film of this size must have been a fair chunk of their budget. So the director must have felt gutted to cut it out. But you can see why, because unless you've got Tim Burton levels of money for these films, what they tried to do was a kind of Wonderland type place where it's all people in weird costumes. There's a hint of like a Wonderland meets a circus, and everyone's dancing and being weird. The thing is, and there's like weird signs everywhere. Thing is, it's in a studio, and so you can't achieve levels of mind-bending weirdness when it's just, we'll put some weird doorways
you kind
up.
of see the walls, can't you?
Exactly. And so anyone looks at that, you go, well, unless you're going to do a lot of like weird shit afterwards with computers, you look at it and you go, it's just people in a studio.
Try to do, but the effects that we have in the show are charmingly dated, let's say.
Like that sequence reminded me of, if there's any Star Trek Voyager fans, forgive me guys here, because I don't know if you're into it or not. There's an episode of Star Trek Voyager where some of the characters, they go into a sort of there's some aliens who are hooked up to like brain monitors, and some of the crew go in like to this dream world that they're in. And Mike McKean, the great comedy actor Mike McKean, is playing this weird sort of jester who's got these people trapped. And that's a similar thing. It's people in leotards and like circus performers. Okay. And you look at it and go, well, it's a mid-budget show thing in a studio. Yeah. And this is what that reminded me of. And I thought, you've cut this because you've looked at it in the end and gone, it's not weird enough. It doesn't look good enough.
You don't miss it, do you? You don't miss it when it just goes to the house.
There is definitely the reason they cut it was because it didn't play well with audiences. So it was the ending. And when they actually played it to early audiences, the feedback was, we don't like the ending. We hate it. We don't like how... And Fred and Lizzie's goodbye in that alternative ending is awful. He just has to run off, and he's given a new assignment, and he just kind of... There's none of that lovely moment where it's like, kiss me and say, drop dead Fred.
I never liked the kiss. I always thought that's a bit weird.
It felt a bit jarring, I guess, but I don't know. know. As a young
girl who wanted to kiss Rik.
No, I didn't even like. I like I've said it before. I've always looked on Rik as more like a father figure, and it's not a sexual kiss. It's absolutely an affectionate kiss that you would share between two friends. That's what I read that kiss as. I know it feels jarring because she was a kid, but in that moment, she's 27-year-old Phoebe Cates.
I wanted to ask you about that because in terms of it's a feminist film in a way, right? It's a film where they don't feel the need to go at the end she's going to get another man and we're going to have a kiss and it's all going to be that. So I wonder if was there an executive somewhere who said, no, we need to have a kiss, the film needs to have a kiss, and people will be going, well, it's weird, okay, on set we'll make it look as platonic as possible.
I'd love to actually talk to Eight de Jong, and the writers. I mean, Carlos Davis and Tony Fingeld, and of course it was all put together by the story was by Elizabeth Livingston, who had a daughter who had an imaginary friend, and then all the kind of darkness kind of came in. And apparently, as early as 1989, they were considering Rik Mayall because Carlos and Tony had worked with Rik on comic relief.
Right.
So they'd been in talks about it. They'd seen The Young Ones. They were big fans of his work. But in terms of why that kiss jars, I think it is, I don't know. I mean, it was the first time I cried at a film. It's that saying goodbye to your childhood. It's totally and utterly unsexual to me when you watch that kiss.
Well, it's a more grown-up moment.
It's like saying goodbye to a friend. That's how I read it anyway. I mean, I don't think it's in any way meant to be romantic. You know, she's saying goodbye to an imaginary friend who's helped her heal. But you're right. Maybe there was a we haven't had a big romantic moment. There should be some sort of, I don't know, but it's not titillating in any way, shape, or form. Like a parent would, I think a father would kiss their daughter on the lips like that. I don't think it's in any way sexual.
It's interesting you mentioned that the ending was reshot because I did wonder this because when I watched it again in preparation for this, when you watch the final scene where he's in the garden with his new little girl that who he is the imaginary friend of, he's obviously wearing a wig. It's so obviously not Rik Mayall's hair.
Right.
To me, that scene is the very kind of cliche thing of, oh, it was all a dream. Oh, wait, I've taken back a memento from that magic land. It wasn't a dream. It's one of those, you know. To me, the fact that girl was never told about Drop Dead Fred, she knows the same little finger thing, that's proof that Fred is real. But then that Fred doesn't seem, he's either pretending not to know Lizzie or doesn't know her.
Oh,
he's mind wiped each time.
No, he can't ever let on that he'd know any adults or anything. He's absolutely in the child's world, having fun, being the
He doesn't even give her a knowing look, a subtle knowing look. He plays it like he doesn't know her.
Lizzie can't see him.
Yeah, Lizzie can't, but Fred can see her, can't he? That's what I mean.
Fred can see her.
I thought Fred maybe might give her like a little sly look to the side, like knowingly, but then pretend, oh, yeah, bleh.
But she wouldn't see that. So what I love about it is when he's like, what are you, deaf? And he does sort of lean in, and there is that little cheeky moment, I think. There is that, because he purposely kind of goes over and does that to Lizzie, but it's all for the young girl, Natalie, who's now his entire world, and that's who he's entertaining, and she is the new Snot-face, right? He doesn't say it, but that's the relationship. It's a magical film. And I do see that there are, you rewatch it, you think, oh, it's very, very late 80s, early 90s. There are certainly, as you said before, like some problems with the graphics, but, it was of its time.
It's charming, though. You can tell, I don't think it ever looked great, but it doesn't completely take you out of it. You can see, 90s, but
the plot,
then boo.
The plot carries you along on a journey of obviously, Elizabeth wrangling with her marriage and the breakdown, and obviously the guy's cheating on her and all of those sort of like adult things. And then you've got all this wonderful anarchy going through the childhood and the mother. Like there are so many things crammed into Drop Dead Fred. It's sort of probably why it doesn't necessarily.
Do you know one bit that really stuck out to me as really jarring? Carrie Fisher's love interest, her boss, who she's having an affair with. So I didn't have imaginary friends. Just kissing on the neck. Just wet dreams.
Yeah, that's a bit
what are you
creepy,
doing? My friend's here.
It's only a 12, this film as well, and there's definitely 8-year-old girls watching this.
What's that mean, Mum?
You mentioned that there were other people considered for the role of Drop Dead Fred. I can't imagine anyone else playing it. I mean, what a role that seems perfect for Rik Mayall as an actor, someone who we're in admiration of. He's someone who does great physical comedy, is cheeky, can be quite dirty, but also can be very charming and kind of sweet. And we talked about the tone. It's a film that is very wild in its tone, and that 1 minute it's sweet, the next minute it's quite vicious.
The line, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I think that's why it didn't do very well, and why it has an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
Critics. but 77% from the
there we go.
audience.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's definitely been taken to the heart. It's a cult film now, isn't
Yeah.
it? Certainly amongst Rick fans, and I would like to think anyone who, sorry, just a trip down memory lane into their childhood. Like, I think even if you didn't know Rick or like Rick, I think you could still enjoy Drop Dead Fred.
It's a film that, presumably, unless you're talking to 11% of film critics, that whenever you mention it to someone, they generally look back on it warmly and fondly and go, well, Drop Dead Fred, I really like that.
Do you know,
didn't seem to do well.
The time I had that film job that Rick was on, right? The first day I was there, and he was hounded by loads and loads of people. There were a number, maybe like 5 little kids who went up to him and said, "Oh, can I have your autograph? Can I have your autograph?" And I remember saying to my friend, "That's a bit weird, isn't it? Little kids saying that. What are they after?" And my friend just, without missing a beat, said, "No, Drop Dead Fred."
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
People tell me I was too young to watch Bottom, but I was too young to watch Drop Dead Fred. It was a 12.
And they were both out in the same
and then
year.
15 on, and then 15 on VHS. But I distinctly remember watching it. Maybe I was more like 9 or 10 by the time I didn't go into the cinema.
Yeah.
So it would have been by the time it did come out.
How old was Lizzie in the beginning? Like 5, 6?
So she's, I think, meant to be around sort of 6 or 7, I think, because Mickey isn't in her life at that point, so he's moved away when they were 5 or whatever, right? So she's young. She's definitely kind of really before 7 or 8, I would say. But the girl who played her was literally the same age as me. The girl who played her, Ashley Peldon, she was born in 1984. She was literally 8 when she was filming it, or maybe even 7 when they were filming it. She now does a lot of voiceover work and apparently a lot of scream sound effects. Like, I looked her up and like she is stunning. But I mean, we haven't gone over everyone in the film, but I just wanted to also, just while we were talking about how no one else could play Drop Dead Fred, I just wanted to say categorically how glad I am that the 2009 remake that was put up for Russell Brand.
We brought this up a couple of times in the podcast, I think. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank God. That would have tainted Rick's memory in a weird way.
It would have just ruined, it would have ruined the
Or at
Drop
least
Dead
that
Fred
felt,
memory.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, let's just not go there with Russell Brand, but I'm so glad that fell through. But interestingly, though, there was a talk of a sequel as early as, I think, 1993.
Drop Dead Fred Goes Hawaiian?
They were talking about it. I think probably Rick wasn't available, maybe because of Bottom, or maybe didn't want to do a sequel. We don't know, but they were talking about getting Ace Ventura. Jim Carrey.
All right, okay. Actually, he could have.
And he was too busy though doing Ace Ventura.
Yeah, right.
So that, and I did read that. I was like, okay, that's the only person I think I could imagine doing.
Bits
Fred.
with the eyes pop out like a cartoon that very much felt like The Mask, or an early prototype for The Mask, I suppose. Something I learned from the director's commentary. It was well worth checking out if you're into film nerdy stuff. The character of Mickey, right at the beginning, he says, "Oh, my grandmother. Remember what you did to my grandmother? I didn't do anything to your grandmother. Fred did." And then you see her in the garden, and then, "Oh, grandma," turns around and shitload of paint goes over it. That's the director's mother. Her reaction's not an act. The director's commentary's very worth checking out if you can. He goes on loads of fascinating stories about it. He spoke about how the film at one point was taught to kids suffering with trauma and mental health issues and stuff. Very much like how Inside Out has gone on to become a very good way to represent feelings for autistic children and stuff. Apparently Drop Dead Fred was taught in those early stages, because it certainly isn't just a flat comedy. There's a hell of a lot of... It's not subtext, is it?
To it. And I used to feel a bit sort of like hesitant when people said, "What's your favourite film?" And I will now say, like, Drop Dead Fred is my comfort watch. You know, it's layered enough for it to not just be some throwaway thing. I mean, all of Rick's comedy was not some throwaway thing. Like, he obviously said yes for a reason. And it is interesting that he actually did write some lines. He added some bits in the cold open of the fairy tale. The mother reading the fairy tale, and then the little girl saying, "What a pile of shit." That's Rick's idea.
That's great.
It
sets the tone completely, doesn't it?
That's it. It's so good. So good. And now it's time for a word from our sponsor.
When I see this stain, I see Fred. My brother dripped dog poo on my carpet.
Introducing 409 Carpet Cleaner. Even the leading carpet cleaner can't beat it.
Bye, Fred.
Try new 409 Carpet Cleaner.
One thing I forgot about, was a real highlight of mine, silly one, is Rick's walk throughout. He's the Fred walk, kind of cross between a chimpanzee and a toddler.
Yeah, he's very physical, isn't he? And actually, some of the deleted scenes show him doing more sort of backflips off things and walking on water once the boat sinks. And they obviously cut those presumably for time.
There was a stuntman
it's
that they find
definitely-
out. Like the
definitely not
handstand
Rick
stuff
doing
isn't
the
him.
backflips and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Film 91, the show that the BBC used to have.
with
the
Barry
film show.
Norman.
Yeah, with Barry Norman. It threw from Barry Norman making quips in his natty jumpers to a report on set with Tom Brooke, who still does BBC's film coverage. In this piece, Rik Mayall, Phoebe Cates, and the producer and the director all did little bits to camera where they gave their descriptions of the film. Phoebe Cates described Fred as her aggressive masculine side, representing what her character, would really like to be doing. The producer described it as about a young woman unable to come to terms with the relationship with her mother and projects her fantasies and aggression into this imaginary friend. The director said a young woman who liberates herself and stands up for herself. And Rik talked about himself. He seemed quite nervous in this interview and quite insecure. And he was sort of almost apologizing for his acting style in that he said he described himself quite self-effacingly as, I'm not a Meryl Streep type actor who can make people cry by raising an eyebrow. This role means I can be me and sort of quite manic and
He says he
physical.
prats about, doesn't he?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And how beautifully does he prat about? I mean, he's just the perfect casting for it. I like that he's like, it's imaginary, so I can be as larger than life as Fred. And it is sweet, isn't it? He kind of hesitantly says, so hopefully I won't make a mistake.
Yeah. The proper insecurity there, isn't it?
It was Rick's first ever Hollywood film.
Big film, yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
This was presumably what he thought might be the big break into doing Hollywood films.
Would be at the bottom if it had done well.
So
maybe not.
I think, and I haven't checked these dates on this, but I think based on his hair, I think they did bottom pilot. Then he went to America, grew his hair out a bit, dyed it, did Drop Dead Fred, then came back and they got the commission for the rest of Bottom, because that's why Rick's hair looks a bit more, as I've described it, more lion mane-ish, and it's a bit more coloured as well.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was going to say, apparently in the third series of The New Statesman, you can see a marked difference in Rick's hair colour. He's much more auburn because that orange hair dye was such a bitch to get out. And you said earlier about how he's wearing a wig in those extra scenes that they must have shot.
Yeah.
It must be because they were like, well, I can't dye my hair again, otherwise that's going to be, staying with me for whatever the role he was doing. So they must have put a wig on it.
Whilst I'm sorry for Rick in the sense that the film didn't do that well and it didn't lead to a big Hollywood career for him, is it selfish of me? I'm going to answer my own question. It is selfish of me. So I'm quite glad of the fact that he got to go to America, do a big film that is now really still appreciated, but thankfully, it didn't take off enough, because then Hollywood might have stolen him and kept him, and we wouldn't have got Bottom and more great comedies.
I think Rick was too big and wild and incredibly
not a big a flop as people say as well. People say it was just critically panned a bit, but it made it was a budget of $6.7 million and it made $24 million.
Okay.
It's a modest success, but it was panned.
But $6 million apparently is about 25 million today, which is it's not huge, but it's a respectable wad, isn't it?
Films like this of this tone and this budget don't tend to get made like this anymore. Like, studios don't tend to sort of take a risk on these things, and it's not seen as a safe enough thing for indies. So I think stuff like this doesn't really get done too much. It's a shame it wasn't appreciated more and received better at the time. But you know what? People's lack of understanding of it can be seen probably nowhere better than in Rik Mayall's appearance on The Late Show with David Letterman, and I'm a huge fan of David Letterman, so this is so disappointing to see. Rick went on there and David Letterman clearly either had no idea who he was, didn't give a shit who he was, and didn't give a shit about the film, and they just didn't gel. Rick tried to make some gags and David Letterman just didn't let them go.
Is that the one where he's not in the studio? He's sort of by...
No. He's in the room.
Okay.
He's in the room.
There was one where he's in a kind of is it the Twin Towers behind him? In that interview, there is, isn't there?
Yeah, I think that might be with someone in Australia.
Yeah, it is.
But it's on YouTube. Look for Rik Mayall on David Letterman.
No, I've watched it. It is pretty painful, isn't it? Because they just don't gel, like you say. And Rick was such a unique. We're saying it wasn't appreciated in its time and all that kind of thing. But actually, isn't it better that it then became this cult thing that Rick fans grew up with, absolutely took to their hearts?
I agree.
He was obviously cast because of what he'd done on The Young Ones, so his legion of fans came from that. I hand on heart think that the reason I loved Drop Dead Fred so much was because I loved Grim Tales.
Yeah.
Rick's such an incredible storyteller, and he is so very good with kids, isn't he?
Mm.
He brings out that childish delight in everyone.
I love
who
the
met
bit where he says,
him.
"Well, I don't love you because I don't love anyone. Loves for girls," and you can
Yeah.
tell the love in him saying
Oh,
that. And then the cornflakes bit.
I mean, just there's a bit of me that just needs to say that bit after the burglary scene, and
Mm.
he's like, "I'm not a coward," and they're in the tree, and he just like has his arm around the little
Yeah.
girl,
Yeah.
and he's sort of reassuring her and saying, never ever be, you've got to be what you want to be. Don't listen to your mum. And he just gives her this little cuddle nudge thing of like, oh, and he's just such a great dad. He's
So-
amazing.
I would say the two villains of the piece are the ex-husband and the mother.
The
Who
mega
would you
bitch.
say is the bigger villain of the piece?
I think, overall, the mega bitch has damaged Lizzie for longer. It's
I
been,
agree.
3 years of a marriage with Charles.
She's the bigger villain because she's present to be the villain. The dad fucked off.
Done a
So
lot of damage as well.
yeah, she's stayed and she's trying to raise her daughter. She's not doing it in a good way and she's being a bitch doing it, but she's still trying to. You know?
Yeah, she's a very, very lonely person, isn't she, basically, the
Ooh,
mega
yeah,
bitch.
the
She's been in a
ending.
very unhappy marriage, and she's obviously not really wanted a kid, and she's probably telling the truth, where she's like, we had a baby to try and save our marriage that was failing,
Yeah.
and that was a mistake, but she blames it on Lizzie, which is obviously vile. Like, would Fred exist if the mega bitch didn't exist?
No. Well,
So actually,
I
is she
think
that
he would
bad?
exist, but assigned to another kid because he's an actual mystical entity that does definitely exist.
Okay, well, that's all right. I won't
I
break your
don't think
heart.
he's a puppet that's being subconsciously created by
The pills-
Lizzie, you know?
The pills work, don't they? So it does show that it's in her mind.
Ah, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
That's what I've always thought. It is in her mind, but we love him. He exists. He's real.
For the mother, there's a real poignant bit in the deleted scenes when, the ending when she says, "You need to get a friend," walks off. It was cut, but then the mother says, "But you're my friend."
Yeah, I'm glad they cut that.
Loser. You sad
No,
loser.
I'm really glad they cut it
Yeah.
because it would make you.
It's a more
not-
sympathy for her.
Yeah, exactly. I see why they cut it because, obviously, the mega bitch went through a lot, but she was vile.
She's only called the mega bitch once. Right at the beginning, there was one use of the word bitch.
Well, it says the mega bitch, and then he says the mega bitch squashed my head,
Yeah.
doesn't he? So there is a couple.
Would you guys like to hear some examples of just how much it wasn't appreciated at the time by critics?
Yes, please.
Gene Siskel, who most people would know as part of Siskel and Ebert, writer for the Chicago Tribune, said, "This is easily one of the worst films I've ever seen." Michael Wilmington of the Los Angeles Times said, "Drop Dead Fred is an erratic stab at making madness sensible, a slapstick nightmare that goes too sane, then tries too hard to be both good and rotten." John Hartle in the Seattle Times said, "It tries too hard to mimic Beetlejuice, especially in British comic Rik Mayall's frantic performance as the title character. Mayall is no Michael Keaton, but it has a whimsical comic energy." That is I found that interesting because there was a couple of Beetlejuice. As a naughty ghost pal of Phoebe Cates, an obnoxious British actor named Rik Mayall is like Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice without the juice, says Owen Gleiberman in Entertainment Weekly.
So it's just someone thinking of a line, isn't it? And going, oh, I'm just going to say that as it sounds.
I don't like that when people just want to go, "Oh, I'm going to try and be the next Charlie Brooker." Radio Times.
What, back in 1991,
Well,
they
no,
wanted
but
to be the next Charlie Brooker.
No, I mean people,
No.
whoever the equivalent was then. "It's particularly irritating if you've seen the much better Harvey," says Peter Friedman in the Radio Times. So that's talk about films to compare this to. I'm trying to think what film it makes me kind of think of tonally, and I was wondering, Goonies, E.T., they're kids films, but they're kids films about kids, where the lead character is a kid and it's marketed to kids. In this one, they're a kid at the beginning, and then they grow up, and the other character is essentially a kid in an adult's body. So in terms of, and we've discussed tone, that it's quite wild in that it can be 1 minute it's quite dark and vicious, and 1 minute it's quite whimsical and loving. But in terms of other films that this is about, films with imaginary characters, Harvey, the big imaginary rabbit in the Jimmy Stewart film Harvey.
Mhm.
Any others?
Big, little
Big.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that magical moment where it's like between an older person and a young person. Obviously, in Big, he's himself, isn't he? But then in a way, can you argue Fred is a part of Lizzie? And in that way, what's she learning from meeting Fred again once she is older? And that's the journey you're going on in the film, isn't it? It's like you think she's losing her mind, but actually she's healing. Other films that I would say it does remind me of, Goonies.
I've got a
Go
bunch
on.
here.
Go on.
Right, so Inside Out, there's a lot of stuff for mental health and things. There's a whole segment with that imaginary friend.
The 90s and 80s era, though.
Okay, then.
'Cause I think it's
well,
really ahead
maybe
of
not.
its time.
It
I
was,
think,
certainly was.
you know what I mean? It's really ahead of its time.
I've not actually seen this one, but for the research, I come across a few people comparing it to Death to Smoochie. Have either of you heard of this film? It's a
No.
Robin Williams film. I
Right.
think it looks like it involves an imaginary friend by the poster.
Okay.
Donnie Darko, a very dark
Wow. Okay.
kind of
Right. Yeah.
version of an imaginary friend.
It's funny.
Fight Club?
Have you seen the horror edit on YouTube of Drop Dead Fred?
No.
Someone's done a
that
horror
sounds
edit
great.
of, you know, when his hand comes out from behind Lizzie's pillow and the
Okay.
Jack in the Box whirring round, like, because
Yeah,
it
okay.
is, it's got horror
Yeah.
elements to it, hasn't it? That if you have just a different sort of sinister noise on it. Yeah, I think, well, let's play devil's advocate just very briefly. We've already said we can't imagine anyone else playing it but Rick, apart from maybe Jim Carrey. Do you think
Wait.
we only are saying they're a bit unfair, it wasn't that good a film? I'm saying this totally as devil's advocate, by the way. I don't agree with it.
Mhm.
But do you think if it was anybody else that was in the role, it would still be a film that anybody watched or gave a shit about?
I think the two we've mentioned, Robin Williams and Jim Carrey, could have done the job.
And I think also, let me throw a younger Steve Martin into it as well. So Steve
Yeah.
Martin, when he was doing things like when he's doing Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, that kind of thing, I could
Mhm.
possibly see it would be a different take on it,
Yeah.
but he was someone who had a lot of manic energy as well, and I could see possibly him doing it.
I still don't think it would have the cult status that it has
Yeah.
because Rick elevated that film to something that I think his energy and him being Fred made it something that it wouldn't have been without him. I genuinely think that.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it goes into really dark territory, but it still skirts into childishness with things like we won't say shit, we'll have dog poo, and we'll have snot flicking and things like that.
I mean, the very nickname Snotface and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
From like, you just feel like Rick's put his stamp on a lot of it, and I'm sure that was in the
Yeah.
script. I'm not trying to say Rick wrote that bit, but him saying "Let's sink the ship." I mean, that is so Rick. I mean, obviously we heard from Ben Elton, like, you know, in that interview at the Slapstick Festival, that he was always like, "Kill another milkman," right? So Rick had such a comedy brain. It's like, of
Yeah, I thought
course, there's a boat there. We've got to
You
sink.
find that? That's very bottom. There's
Oh,
there
yeah.
is a frying pan bit that he doesn't do it. The husband grabs a frying pan
Yeah,
and whacks.
hits the big
whacks-
sumo wrestler style nurse. But I mean, and you know, I think he brought so much to it, and his physicality and all of that. And we haven't even touched upon the costumes.
So I always pictured him as in a green suit. It's not a green suit, is it?
It's like a clownish. I mean, when you say it's like Beetlejuice-esque, isn't it? It's got that kind of green,
It is
like
green, isn't it?
stripe to it.
no, yeah, but it's not a suit.
Oh, I see.
No, but
Oh,
then
it's not
later-
matching. Yeah.
No.
Later, he is in the boat.
When he's
tie
got
and
the sort of
tails.
Ice cream hair.
Yeah,
that
for
bit,
the Charlie party.
That's, I like that description of it. Yeah.
The whole coat, and such a short costume change, really. But in the boardroom, when he's there with Murray, and he's got that, like, you know, he's got his collar pressed out, and it's like
The
what,
pirate,
really sharp.
obviously.
And then the pirate costume, exactly. I mean, the costume design on that film, like, the budget wasn't nothing, was it? Like, they definitely went to town on it, and I think in many ways it is. That's why it's probably compared to Beetlejuice. There's lots of those whimsical kind of costumes and really striking characters in it with the other imaginary friends. They're all characterized, and they've got their own costumes and graphics and everything they did for Velcro head exploding and all that. Like, it's a whole world that they built, right? And it could have been very Tim Burton.
Yeah, it definitely feels like.
Something that I found very Tim Burton-y because of the Beetlejuice comparisons is it's almost body horror. It's funny body horror. It's when Fred's head gets trapped in the fridge and he's pulling on it, and you get a really long neck, and then of course as he brings it out with a noise, he's got an enormous moon, like a Stewie Griffin face.
Yes, the director says that he couldn't move his head he couldn't move his neck more or less when he was in that prosthetic.
Yeah, there's a making of Drop Dead Fred on, I think it's on the DVD, the Blu-ray, and the makeup designer sort of goes into how long that sort of took and like how much effort, and the same with sort of Velcro's head exploding. They really did go at it, didn't they? I mean, it's such a short amount of time on screen that Rick's head is like that.
Yeah.
But I remember laughing hysterically when I was younger when that happened. As you say, the neck coming out the fridge, it's very
so well done.
Yeah, it is literally like a real life cartoon. I mean, they never even got to that level in Bottom, did they? In terms of like, this is literally cartoon-esque antics happening.
I think it's
live.
because once he's on the ground, firstly, once he's on the ground, he's able to you're able to see facial expressions still. But I think one of the things that really adds to it is he does like that sort of, I'm going to rub my head in a way that makes me think I've gotten away with it. And that's how he realizes his face is so massive.
Yeah, it's classic, is it? Like, whoop. And then the panic, and also the topper to that scene when his head does shrink back is, of course, the immortal line, cobwebs.
Makes her laugh.
Which
That's a
is-
real laugh as well. It doesn't feel like a
Oh, yeah.
stage film
It's-
laugh. You know what I mean?
Almost feel like, did Rick ad-lib that? But that was one that at the age of 8, I'm not sure I completely got why the cobwebs were up there.
I think
but
that was the
obviously
scene
brilliant.
that the execs came to visit, I think, when that was happening. More, maybe, or something like that. And they were like, oh, I don't know about this.
Really?
Oh, what they said, the upskirting wasn't quite
And they're
right.
like, this is a bit much. And, then,
Because I did it on the rewatch. It's like he does it to her, he does it to Annabella.
and there's a
And
cut
then
scene.
there's a
Yeah.
cut scene and he does it to the nurse.
He says
and-
no cobwebs there.
Which is like a rule of 3, so I guess that's why they would have put up there. But the no panties and the eyes popping out his head is brilliant. But costume designed by Carol Wood.
I always thought the no panties bit was out of character for Fred because he doesn't like girls.
Well, he's very, very unsexual, isn't he? He's
But
asexual.
that's a sexual
almost,
bit.
but until those moments
Yeah.
where he meets Annabella. And she is just wearing that basically a bloody
Do you know who
sleeve
that
of a
actor
dress.
is? Actress is?
Bridget Fonda, isn't it?
She was good friends with
Phoebe.
Phoebe Cates, and that's how she got the role.
Did you come and do one set? I mean, she was already big by then,
Yeah.
Bridget Fonda.
And
like,
it's like they didn't want to make a big thing about it as well. She's barely credited. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean she's incredibly sexy, isn't she? And it's interesting in the original script she's Annabelle, not Annabella, and I wonder if it got changed just for that
Oh, I
crap
tell
line
you,
from
He
Charles.
does it wrong. It should be go to hella, Annabella. He says, well, the hell with you, Annabella. That doesn't rhyme.
Oh yeah,
know?
I never really thought
Fucked
about
it.
that, but just
He fucked it.
I've always hated that. I'm your fella, Annabella.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's awful, isn't
Yeah.
he? That
I mean,
He's
TV
so
character.
unlovable.
Well, I mean, but obviously the character is meant to be the most unlikable douche in the world,
Yeah,
isn't
but
it?
you're just
He's
like,
not
why
meant to-
would Lizzie love it? She
Because
keeps like, I
she's-
love Charles. No, you
Because she
don't.
doesn't have a dad.
Shows how
doesn't it?
how vulnerable she is.
No,
Yeah.
I know. She's being abused left, right, and
guy.
centre.
Charles probably found out what aftershave Lizzie's dad wore, and then made sure he dabbed some on before
The
before
fact
he
he
signed
gets
off.
on with the mother's creepy as well, isn't it? Like
Well,
don't
she's-
worry, I'll take care of it
she's
now.
like
Oh,
that.
Charles, you're right. Gross. So, picture this. A character that's completely self-delusional, with faux sophistication, delusion of grandeur, and a complete mess. Clearly had problems in his childhood, being brought up by some family members that probably coddled him and gave him this sense of weird class and superiority. I'm, of course, talking about an adult, Richie. Now, if this character had had a little imaginary friend of Fred or a Fred-like creature, how different would he have turned out?
Well, it's an interesting conceptual idea as to what Richie would have done with an imaginary friend as a kid. I mean, Richie's the kind of, I imagine if you had Richie as a kid, he'd the kind of person who would have had an imaginary friend because he wouldn't have had any real mates.
He probably would have been bullied by his imaginary friend.
Yeah, Fred. Yeah, that's true.
But that's what
Fred.
Fred does
Yeah.
really too. But it's a
Yeah,
bullying to bring out
Yeah.
stuff.
bit
in him.
where he's
There would have been no love behind it from this imaginary
where he
friend.
writes her the note and then she turns up thinking it was Charles and he's like, got a stupid haircut, haven't got a husband. I mean, that is pure bullying. Yeah, he'd be even worse with Richie. So yeah, Richie would be the kind of person to have an imaginary friend who would bully him and it wouldn't improve him in any way, shape,
Sure,
or form.
but Fred's role is to liberate him through this, like touching on the trauma, sort of, Fred, yeah, he would poke at these little insecurities and stuff, but
Mm.
I think, yeah, Fred's not in the business of actually bullying people, and that. I always thought of Richie. I think we maybe brought this up in the podcast before, like Tory Boy from Harry Enfield.
Yeah.
So like, they're all creep,
Mm.
But there's certainly some stuff with his auntie and stuff that, like, Fred could get him to, like, look, your auntie and the chauffeur and the hired helper doing something weird with a bucket of fish. Let's take pictures together. The sort of.
You really thought about what
Do you-
they'd get up to. But
you know-
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
anyway.
All right, I'll tell you which Rick character I think would believably have had an imaginary friend, but they wouldn't have been an evil Fred imaginary friend, and that's Kevin Turvey. I could see him having an imaginary
Mm.
friend, younger than when we see him on the TV,
Yeah.
but I could see him having an imaginary
Another,
friend as a
like,
kid.
co-anchor, another investigator that's
Yeah,
helping him
Yeah.
do stuff.
Of course, Richie was abandoned by his mum and presumably never knew his dad. So, similar trajectory there.
I
But
think Richie himself would hate Fred just because
I don't know, because
he brings out all of this insecurities in him, and Fred, yeah, he
Would
really,
needle.
twist the knife with these sort of stuff.
Yeah, but it is always a joke, isn't it? And I mean, obviously, we're getting very abstract now, but I think, Richie, if he had a friend to talk to, would be delighted, wouldn't he? That someone was always there to.
Yeah, but the Richie's like shame and overcompensating personified, and when we get philosophical and what's the other word, like the Freud stuff, he's like, is he the id or the superego? I'm not sure. I can never remember which one's which, but he's very much
Yeah, he's the. I mean, yeah, I know
Your
it is
insecurities and
yeah.
your
Mm.
desires manifest if
Yeah.
he is an actual creature
Well, this is
sent
it.
from
Richie
God.
would Richie would never go on a journey of self-discovery, looking inward about himself and trying to figure out
Just
his own
because he's a
problems.
sitcom character, he needs to stay the same, I suppose. But
He would go on a certain journey of self-discovery, but it would just be a week of masturbation.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, Fred, get out of here. I want to get my cock out, right?
well, actually, I've always thought that Eddie is Richie's imaginary friend. He's not real. Because
You've
think about
always
it.
thought
Think
it.
about it. Eddie never talks to another character apart from
All of
Spud
them.
Gum and Hedgehog and
They're
Big
all
Bird.
imaginary
What
characters.
he's doing a bit. Yeah, no, it's well, I think we did ponder like where the hell they met, didn't we, and how on earth they
Mm.
ended up together. But yeah, if Richie had never met Eddie, maybe he would be having to live on his own with an imaginary friend.
Yeah, I don't think Fred would make him that different. He maybe would just be a little bit more aware of his sadness, but maybe play into it a bit more. I
They'd
think
have
he'd
some great
just
fights. It would basically be wall to wall violence. That's another thing I love about Lizzie when it's like, Charles is like, is he ever violent? And she's like, only with me. And it's such a dark line, isn't it? And it's true because Fred does only like hit her when the pigeons are doing it.
thing. Yeah, like he would be happy that Richie is a virgin because he's what? Not happy that Lizzie's had sex. See,
Yeah.
who's taught her to have sex?
Yeah.
Who's taught the pigeons? All
Yeah.
that stuff. What's no? You managed to stamp on her head.
And peck her.
Yeah.
So at this time, Rick was obviously doing a lot of great physical comedy that we are huge fans of. And I think this film has, notwithstanding the fact that obviously in some scenes it's a stuntman who stood in for some of the shots, it has a lot of great moments of physical comedy for Rick, where you can see, and some of the things are like where he's doing stuff like sliding down the banisters and squashing his bollocks at the bottom. And there's other things, just like where he's doing the dog poo, lovey, lovey, dog poo. Obviously, when he like is leaping, when he's flipping
He
from
doesn't do the
like,
handstand,
yeah,
does he?
that's not him. But when he's up on the chair and he's doing it, there's something really sort of like a ballet dance, the way he's splaying his leg across the dog shit.
At the end, when he's overhearing the husband on the phone and he falls, that's not a stuntman. You see his face. He
Yeah,
falls the fucking length of that. One thing I just thought this second, that she's allergic to gladiolas and the mother still keeps them in the house.
Yeah.
Knows for that shows the level of contempt she has.
Well,
Fuck her.
that she doesn't give a shit. They're obviously her favourite flower. Her daughter's allergic to them. Oh well, still buying her favourite flower because I like how they look.
Let's get more of these and no EpiPens.
Yeah, she's just a pure bitch, isn't she? But serves the purpose. Right. Now I think it's time for a Drop Dead Fred quiz. Are you guys ready? I'll kick off. Right. What are you going to have as your instead of
Face.
you're going to have snot face?
Dog poo, dog poo. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dog poo, snot face.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 1. Grandma Bunce is played by the director's mother.
Mhm.
In the scene where she gets covered in paint, what substance is it that was used? to be thrown on-
Custard.
Incorrect.
Dog poo.
No, it's not dog poo. No.
Well, so hang on, within the film or
Yeah, within the film, it's
yellow paint?
It's not yellow paint.
Oh wait, sorry. Wait, I thought you meant as in
What
to
was it
protect
real?
the actor.
Yes, what was
do-
the actual
okay,
substance that
alright,
was used?
and
in
it's
the
not
filming?
custard, so I'm gonna say okay. Dog poo.
It's not dog.
No, but soapy water.
No, it's yogurt.
Oh, yogurt.
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it is very viscous, isn't it? And
Okay.
apparently, the director's mother said she was finding it in her ears for weeks.
Fantastic.
How many years has she got?
I know. She didn't mention the other orifices.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's 1 to no, that's
No,
nil
she,
point.
she already had a yeast infection. In
Nil
the
point. What car company does Lizzie's husband Charles work for?
dog poo. Oh, I'm gonna say Jaguar.
You're correct.
Yes.
Oh,
I remember he
It's
put.
littered throughout
what
that
he-
film.
I
Yeah.
only remember it because that's what he pulls off the bonnet of the
And it
car.
deflates.
Watching
yeah.
it, they walk. It's massive advert for Jaguar. They're
Right,
walking
okay.
in there, and then he's got the Jaguar car, and he's got a horrible neon Jaguar above his bed as well.
Hmm.
Ugh,
I
creepy.
wonder what if they got permission for that, because if you're portraying it in a negative light, in the only shits work for this company,
Interesting. I thought it would be product placement, and then actually it was part of
But-
like a
but the-
positive thing.
but this would be like the product placement of in Back to the Future, where they go, "Hey, we're gonna feature your company," and they have one advert and it's on a bench where a homeless guy's sleeping.
yeah, and it'd be negative. Well, let's maybe we'll get 8 de Jong on the
Yeah.
pod, and we can ask him. And that's 1 to you, Paul. In the psychiatrist's office, Fred meets and plays with his friends. Name them.
Oh God, dog poo, namby pamby,
Yep.
tin head.
Nope.
Oh fucking hell, I can't remember. All I remember is namby
Matt,
pamby.
can you steal?
Is there sort of Velcro face? Is one?
Head. You
Velcro
close.
head? Nah, I couldn't.
Okay. Go to hell, Herman.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Graggy, which is one that is kind of, you don't really hear it that well. So Graggy, Velcro head, go to hell, Herman.
Herman's very
and
drop
Namby
dead Fred. Yes.
Pamby.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that's a nil point for either of you there. So it's still 1-2 Paul. When Lizzie is planning to make a pants pie with Fred, he catches cornflakes disease. What pie will save him?
Snot fart. Snot fuck. I
Snot
just said
fart.
snot face.
Not face. Go on.
It's a mud pie.
That's correct. Right, okay. 1-1. Who is Phoebe Cates married to
Dog
in real
poo.
life?
Kevin Klein.
That is correct.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah, I never knew that until they got 2 kids.
Someone else who was in one of the greatest comedies of the 80s as well.
Fish Called Wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Not
got-
In and Out.
He got an Oscar. I don't know, did he win? But he got an Oscar nomination for that.
Wow.
Kevin
Fish
Klein.
Called Wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great performance. That just brilliant. Anyway, there's a hidden joke in Drop Dead Fred. We are led to believe that puttanesca is the name of Lizzie's designer dress. What does that word translate to in Italian?
Not face. Whores.
That's
Oh,
correct.
Whores pasta.
Ah,
I've heard
okay.
it from.
So it's in the style of the whore, which I found fascinating on the rewatch because it's like, but what is puttanesca? As they get thrown out of the thing, and she's like, my dress, and I always thought, oh, that's the dress, but like he's basically saying, get out of here, you whore, the
Okay.
Italian guy,
Right.
which
thought
I
it
like
would
as
have
a
been
detail.
You threw pasta puttanesca everywhere.
And it could be that. It
Okay.
could be that that's what they were eating. There we go.
So for anyone
It's
doesn't know,
layered.
it was
This film is layered.
That was pasta that was made by very poor
Pause. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
prostitutes.
It's what prostitutes and that would eat. Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
it's called it. Anyway,
It's layered like the lasagna they serve in the restaurant.
exactly. I thought I would just ask one that isn't necessarily
Mm.
completely on Drop Dead Fred to give any of you a chance who haven't necessarily been obsessing about it since you were 8. So that's 2-2. What vegetable does the nurse feed Elizabeth?
Snot face. Broccoli.
That's correct. Which British comedy legend was apparently who the writers first
Dog
envisioned
poo.
for the role?
Dog poo, John Cleese.
Yes, you were listening earlier. Well done. So that's 3 each.
I
God,
know
this is
he
getting exciting. What is Fred's mantra or advice when it comes to
Dog poo.
parties?
Oh, when it comes to parties.
So
Stay until the end.
that's not correct.
No,
I mean, it's not I want the exact words. It's got to be the actual mantra.
I don't know. I just said it hoping I'd hear it and know what it was. Go on.
So go on, Matt. I'll give you another go at saying what you think it is because you've got 2 words.
Stay till the end and smash everything up. Something. No, I'm confused. And I thought you were going to ask that. There's a nice one he has to fix something. You need to break it first. I thought you were going to say something.
Well,
like
no, he says to break something. It's to tear it apart and make it better. If something's broken, you've got to tear it apart and make it better.
That's a
that
Rik
one.
Mayall ism, I
Yeah.
think, more than a Fredism.
Well, anyway, the answer I was looking for was you never leave a party till the very, very end.
Terrible advice.
I've always followed it.
Yeah,
Guys.
like everyone, like the host waiting for you to leave. No.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so that is now
3-3 still.
3-3. Okay. I don't know what question we're on. What are the magic words?
Snot face. Drop dead Fred.
Nope. What are the magic words?
I'm
The Mega
sorry.
Geeks. Nope.
I don't know.
What are Lizzie's magic words at the end of the film to her mum? No? When Rick finally in the dream state.
Oh,
dog
I
poo,
know.
dog poo.
Drop dead Fred.
You're not in control. You're not in control anymore.
I'm not scared of
Close.
you.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, you're nearly there. It's I'm not afraid of you. Sort of got there
Let's
after
do it
about
just to
20
get-
goes. Right, okay, so that's now 4-3. Carrie Fisher was in Star Wars. Name her character.
Snot face. Princess Leia.
Well done, Matt. You won that.
What do I get?
Nothing at all.
Mm.
Oh, actually, forgot to give you something.
Oh, she's wiped a bogey on my
Put a
face.
bogey on your cheek. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed us talking about Drop Dead Fred. Please do tune in next week for another special on Rick's characters.
Yeah, thank you very much. And now to leave, Matt, just kiss me and say drop dead Fred.
Do I have to kiss you on the lips? Can I kiss you on the cock?
Okay, I'm going to leave these guys in this very hot room and escape.
Thank you for listening. Next week, it's another of Rick's characters that we'll be talking about. And in the meantime, tickets are on sale for our appearance at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, our live podcast, details of which Angela will tell you now.
We are going to be playing on Sunday, the 24th of August at 3:10 in Underbelly, Ermintrude. That's in Bristow Square. Look us up on the Fringe website or the Underbelly website. You can get tickets there. We'll obviously put a link to it on all of our socials. If you're not following us, please find us at Talking Bottom.
That's on YouTube as well. Like
Yes.
plug of the YouTube. It's a new bit.
YouTube's a social, isn't it? Sort of.
Maybe. It's a
Maybe.
website.
It's a video platform. Anyway, thank you for listening, everyone. And if you want to get in touch and tell us anything at all in your minds, you can also email us 11maffickingparade@gmail.com.
See you next time.
Bye.